Jello again. Aaron here from My Turbo Reviews, and I'm back. Yes, he's back. Back again. It's a nice day outside, and I thought I'd pound out another review, and as the title says, it's Combiner Wars Deluxe Groove. Interesting thing about this toy, all signs point to it being the very last single release deluxe figure in the Combiner Wars line. Of course, you've got deluxe figures coming up in those wonderful box sets of G2 Bruticus as well as Computron, but for single packed figures it appears as though this guy is it. And yes, he's not available at regular brick and mortar stores. Rather, you're going to have to hunt him down online. Now, he's scheduled to be released as part of Hasbro's second annual May Mayhem at online retailers who deliver here to the US, but the release still counts as a regular release in the Combiner Wars line, even if it's also considered an online exclusive. And as I said, that makes him the final deluxe figure single packed to be released in the Combiner Wars line as far as we know. And what's interesting about him is that he comes in packaging devoid of a comic book, which is how the Combiner Wars line started. If you remember, the very first wave of Combiner Wars Deluxes were packed sans comic books, and it wasn't until the second wave that they started with that trend. Honestly, it's something that I could do without. If it's a cost-cutting measure and it comes down to cheaper plastic or let's get rid of those comic books, I'm all in favor of getting rid of those comic books. But enough waffling, let's get on to the toy. Combiner Wars Deluxe Groove is a fantastic little toy. His alt mode is a ludicrously oversized motorcycle, and when I say ludicrously oversized, I mean in comparison to the other members of the Protectobot team. But of course, that's the way the G1 figures were, and Transformers was never about scale to begin with. If you got scale, you were lucky. He features three things that I really enjoy in a figure. First being that tampographed Autobot symbol in vehicle mode, as well as one in robot mode, which I'll show later. Thing number two is the amount of clear plastic on the toy. You've not only got the windshield, but you've got the two red lights on the front of the motorcycle and this plastic that covers the silver paint on the front of the bike. You've also got some clear plastic going on with his weapons, which fit nicely in vehicle mode. And speaking of that silver paint, that's my third thing that I like about this toy. The amount of silver paint that's on him. It's the kind of stuff that I wish Hasbro would use more of, especially if they're not going to pay to chrome out the figures. At least paint them in this silver paint rather than that standard PVC gray that we get a lot of. As a bike, he's much more than passable. The wheels roll relatively well. He's got a little kickstand that pops out of what becomes his left arm. In this mode, the toy has a couple of minor flaws. The front of the bike doesn't turn left or right, and also when transforming him back into this mode from robot mode, it's very, very difficult to get the two halves of this rear wheel to peg in together properly. But all in all, I'd say he's successful as a bike. Now let's take a look at him as a robot. And as a robot, Groove doesn't really do much that the other Combiner Wars Deluxes don't do. He's got the same range of articulation that they all have. Bend at the knees, bend at the elbows, and so on. Head's on a ball joint, although movement is somewhat limited. The middle of the chest is clearly the combiner port. It does have that little tampographed Autobot symbol that I said I loved so much in vehicle mode. He does have light piping at the cost of the entire back of his head being made out of clear plastic. This guy definitely homages his original G1 counterpart, and I think they did a good job of updating the figure to make it much more articulate and to bring it into the 21st century. He holds his guns very well, and unlike most of the other Combiner Wars Deluxes, he does come with the 2 weapons as opposed to just 1. 2, these weapons appear to be made out of clear plastic and then painted over with this gunmetal gray. So, I guess a nice touch. I'm not sure if it was necessary, but hey, you know, whatever. His face seems to be in that permanent scowl that Combiner Wars Motormaster had. You can tell this is definitely not one happy bot. And of course, Groove becomes either an arm or a leg of Defensor, or really any other Combiner Wars combination combiners team. On the box, it sold him as part of Skyrain. I assume that's because it's been such a long time since the pieces to Defensor were out, and Skyrain is kind of the current wave that's out on shelves. But we all know he's meant to be Defensor's right leg. Finally, just like last May when we got Combiner Wars Quickslinger and Breakneck, aka Combiner Wars Slingshot and Wild Rider, the release of Groove to complete my Defensor is very much welcome in my household. I agree, my wife agrees, my dog agrees, and that's good enough for this Turbo reviewer. So this is Aaron from My Turbo Reviews saying, catch you later.